Welcome to Conscious Village and Child, where we serve to support the self-awareness and conscious development of families and the community.
Hey everyone, so I have opened up the space for us to, or for me to discuss this topic about preconception and conscious conception and what that all means. So I've set up the space, I have my little altar here, I have incense burning, because everything that I want to bring to you, I want it to come from a space of truth. So today I want to talk about the foundation in building a new life with the intention of creating a new form, a new life in your life, if that makes sense. So what do I mean by a foundation? Well, in order to create life, right, we must first find a partner, or we can do it on our own. But there's a lot that goes into it. It's not just finding a partner. It's not just, making that decision that, I want to be a parent. What do we really need to be aware of prior to bringing a new life into our lives? So, and this does not matter if you are heterosexual or not. There are many ways of bringing new life into this world, right? And so I don't want to talk about the foundation as far as like what we were taught, which is, you find a partner, you get married, you buy a house, etc., etc. I mean, all of those things are very, very good, right? They're important because it sets a tone for a lifestyle that you want to create. But those are not necessarily the steps that everyone takes, and that's okay, right? We all have to create from a place of genuineness and authenticity. And the steps that you may take to create that strong foundation may not be the same steps that other people take. And that is totally fine. And we have to be okay with that, right? Because we all live very different lives and lifestyles with different beliefs and ideals. And not two people will agree on necessarily exactly the same thing. So we compromise and we find agreements and we create the life or co-create something together, right? So today when I talk about building the foundation, I'm talking about the idea that, this is heavy. The idea that we all come from our mother, right? So we're going to talk about generations. So our cells are, right, were created inside the womb of our mother. And our mother was created inside the womb of her mother, and so on and so forth. So we have been in existence inside a cellular form since generations ago. But aside from that, where do we actually come from? And this is a very hot topic, right? We are now in the new age era where there are a lot of things that people are sharing, information that maybe a long time ago was not necessarily accessible, information that people didn't easily speak about, right? And now we have kind of turned a page and everyone is talking about all forms of esoteric beliefs and mysticism and new age and spirituality, which is great, right? Because it allows us to open up a platform to really openly discuss, where do we actually come from? And there are many stories. There is a story that I love to hear in the kindergarten world where I work in Waldorf education about how in the heavens or in the skies, right, I'm not going to tell you the full story, but there's a story that is told during a child's birthday. And it's about this little angel that's up in the heavens and is shining his or her star, really working hard at polishing his or her star. And one day as I'll just say he's working at polishing the star, his star. He notices that down there is an earth. And in the earth, he notices that there are people. And he's very curious. He becomes very curious about the people down on earth. And he asks one of the elder angels, who are those people? Who are those people down on earth? And obviously the story is not exactly like this, because I don't have the story written down in front of me. But the main gist that I want to share is that this angel, is told, well, if you want to go to earth, you'll have to choose a mom and a dad, or you'll have to choose some parents. And but before you can go to earth, you have to really work hard at polishing your star. And so then the day comes that the star has been completely polished. That little angel worked really, really hard to make his star shine so, so very bright. And the day arrived when he had to walk over the rainbow bridge. And so he walked along with his teacher, the elder angel. And I swear, I think I'm butchering this story, but you'll get the gist, okay? And before he walks across the rainbow bridge, the teacher, the angel, the elder angel tells him, you must give me your wings, and I will make sure to have your wings for you when you return. And you're going to go into earth, and you are going to forget who you are, who you have been, but you are going to have a great life, and you are going to have new parents to love you. And so something like that. The story goes a little bit something like that. It's been a long time since I've heard it, but it makes me remember about the stories that are told through different lineages, ancestry lineages, of how we come into this world. And if you are a religious person, there's a belief that you come from heaven, right? And that we are created from Adam and Eve. And there's a lot of different stories and a lot of different beliefs. But what resonates with me out of all of these stories that I hear and that I have heard throughout my life is the idea that we reincarnate into this place, that we have lived previous lives before this one, and that we choose the people that we are to be birthed from. And so, in essence, we choose our mother and our father. We choose the life that we want to live to a certain degree. We choose our lineage and our ancestry, depending on the things that we want to work on, depending on the lessons that we want to learn, and the goals that we want to achieve. So when we think about the new era that we are in now, the new phase of humanity, there are a lot of children that are being born fully activated. What do I mean by that? Well, scientists have said that we only utilize about 10% of our DNA, and that the rest of our DNA is junk DNA. When in actuality, it's not junk DNA. It's DNA that is not activated. However, now children are being born with different strands of their DNA fully activated. And these are children that hold on to their memories. They hold on to their memories past a certain age. And they are people that become very knowledgeable, geniuses almost. Mediums, people that are clairvoyant, people that really hold on to very specific gifts as they grow up. I don't know if you've ever seen videos on social media of little children who pretty much talk to their parents and say, hey, you and I were together on this day, and we were doing such and such thing, right? only to realize that that child was talking about perhaps a grandparent or like a grandmother, grandfather, or, someone that lived in a previous life with that parent that this child is talking to, right? Or little children that are born and they're here and they don't want to be here, right? They want to go home, and they'll cry and they'll say, I don't want to be here. I want to go home. And we as human beings say, well, you are home. But the thing is that these children are really not talking about this home. They're talking about a different place that they remember. Now, why is this important? It's important for us to understand this because when we do understand this and we try to wrap our head around it, it helps us understand that we have that we do have a say in the type of life that we live, that we do have control and of some circumstances, of choices that we can make. And as parents or as future parents and people that want to conceive children, you have an opportunity to go into this awareness of parenthood, this new stage in your life of parenthood, fully aware that a soul is going to choose you as his mother or father, and that they are going to come into your life for a very specific purpose. And if you can prepare the environment in such a way so that this child has the most optimal environment to grow up in, then you are gifting yourself and this child, this new being, the greatest gift that you can possibly gift them, right? So that's what I mean by creating a good foundation. It's having that awareness that we are chosen to be parents, that there are things that are going to happen in our child's life that maybe we did not think would happen, and that perhaps it serves as a reminder that, they chose to have those experiences, right? That perhaps maybe you were dreaming of having a home birth and for whatever reason you had complications and weren't able to. And so then you have to kind of have that awareness in order to be able to forgive, yourself or forgive the circumstance, right? And move beyond it. And I know this is very vague, because there truly is so much to unpack and so much to say about all of these little details. But I don't want to make this video very long. So one of the things about the foundation is, first off, before you have a child, before you consider getting pregnant, you have to really think about yourself. Where are you in your life? Where are you in your relationship with yourself? How do you see yourself? How do you treat yourself? Are you loving with yourself? Are you forgiving with yourself? Are you understanding and compassionate with yourself? Because all of that is very important. I think I said it before, that our womb holds a lot of memories. And if you are not fully in love with yourself, if you are not fully in love with yourself and aware of the inner dialogue that may be negative, that may stop you or keep you from being the best version of yourself, right? So you must be willing to start that healing process within your own body, within your own mind and your soul, so that you can connect your mind with your inner heart and create this inner connection where your outer world and your inner dialogue are a reflection of each other. This is important because when you can create a good relationship with yourself, you are then able to create a good relationship with your partner. You and your partner should be a safe space for each other. We always hear about, relationships being two people being best friends, right? Yes, that's true. Yeah, you have to build such a good relationship amongst each other that you can be each other's safest space. This is crucial for the foundation and development of your relationship and the future family that you want to create. If things are not the way that you would like for them to be, then maybe instead of bringing a new child into the world, first work on those little red flags that may appear in your relationship. If possible, work on those things and make sure that both of you are on the same page so that you can co-create something beautiful together. Because I must say that when children do come into your life, they change the dynamic of the relationship. And all those red flags that maybe you saw but you didn't want to deal with in the moment will definitely come up after a child is brought into the relationship. And those red flags, those circumstances, situations, and problems will affect your home life. And so you want to create a very stable foundation for your relationship and for your home life and your family. So when you have created that strong foundation, when, let's say, you have analyzed, your circumstances with your partner and things are okay, then you plan ahead, right? You plan for the next step. Now, how can you find out if you and your partner are aligned? If what you and your partner are trying to create is something that both of you are wanting to create and it's not one-sided, right? So one of the things that I recommend for people to do sometimes is to create a list. You and your partner can sit down and have a dialogue, and each of you grab a piece of paper and look at what you want to create on your own. So write those down, right? So your partner, you write a list of the things that you want to create for yourself, the reasons for wanting to have a child, and then your partner does the same thing. And then you come together and you look at the list, at both lists, and you see where both of you are compatible and where both of you may need to make some compromises. And this may be hard, right? Because you might see some really deep underscoring realities that maybe you hadn't seen before, and you will have to work through them. And that's okay, because you have to make sure that these things are in place before you bring a child into this life, right? You want to be able to have a compatible relationship before adding a third person into your relationship. This is in order to create the most optimal family situation where both of you can be compatible and work together as partners to raise a new life. Because the easiest thing is having a child. The hardest thing is raising the child with a strong foundation and a partnership between both parents, a partnership that is building something positive and helping to equally support that new life in the best way possible for their best potential so that they may reach their highest potential. Now, once you have created this list, right, then you have to talk about parenting, right? You really do have to talk about parenting. So you have to bring up the questions of, how was I parented? Did my parents meet my needs? How was my partner parented? Did his parents or her parents meet his or her needs? What is lacking? What was lacking? How are the relationships between our parents? Us with our parents, right? Your partner with his or her parents. What is that like? Because how you were raised and how you were parented will be reflected on how you parent your future children or your current children. And that can be very positive, but it could also be very detrimental, right? It could be very negative depending on the circumstances that you grew up with. So, and this all goes back to ancestral lineages, right? What was experienced through your parents' lives? What was experienced through your grandparents' lives and their parents, and so on? What are you carrying inside your womb? What is stored there? What needs to be unpacked so that you understand what is possible in your parenting style, and you become aware of what you don't want to bring into your future. Because sometimes we can say, well, my parent was this way with me, and I will never be like that. I can assure you right now that you will be like that. So you need to work on healing that part of yourself, that part of your lineage and ancestry, so that you can heal that or be in the process of healing that before you bring in a new child. Because most likely than not, you are going to commit those same, or you could possibly commit those same mistakes that your parents committed or did with you, right? And then that's a whole nother realm of healing and unpacking and undoing. And that's why building a strong foundation right away from the very beginning is important, so that we don't commit generational trauma. So we heal the trauma so that we don't pass that trauma into our children and then their children and future generations. However, even if we did do that, let's say we have children and we committed some mistakes, we did things that maybe we shouldn't have, we shamed our child, we abused our child, whatever the case may be, all of that can be healed. And we also have to remember that our children come into our lives knowing, maybe now it's unconscious, but subconsciously they know that they are going to experience certain things in this lifetime. And those things that they are going to experience with us are going to help them achieve a specific goal or purpose in their lifetime. I know it's a very hard pill to swallow, but we can talk about this for a long time, and maybe I'll record something later about this. Now, going back to the relationship. So once you figure out what the parenting styles were like with you and your parents, then you have to really talk about it with your partner. Okay, what am I not willing to compromise as a parent? And what is something that we can change? What can we agree on? So you both have to agree on a parenting style. Why is that important? That's very crucial, actually, for your child's development as a human being. Because when there is no unity between parents, when there isn't unity between the parenting style, there can be a lot of conflict. A lot. And that conflict is not only going to be lived between you and your partner, but it's going to be lived between you and your children. And there are situations, I didn't actually live through this with my kids, but I have heard, and And if you've ever seen Nanny 911, I don't know if they have that show anymore, but I know it was very popular back in the days. I mean, so many times I saw shows where, her episodes where the child kind of ran the show, and one parent said one thing and the other parent said another thing. And that is very, very tough. And it's not that it's tough for the parents, it's tough for the child, because they don't know where they stand. They don't know who to listen to. So that is why it's so important for parents to be united, to be committed to parenting in the same way, right? To hold the same standards, so that the child understands that what one parent says, the other parent is already in agreement with. And they don't have to go from one parent to the next trying to figure things out. Okay, that creates a lot of dysfunction in a child's life. And a child should essentially not have to have that conflict. They should know that the rules are the same with both parents, especially if both parents are living together. That may be different when parents are no longer together, separated. Let me look at my notes really quick. Okay, so if things are not, let me take it back. So when you start really unpacking this, and, or you already have children and you really want to like start fresh and maybe create something new, you can ask yourselves, have an open communication and really be open about, okay, what is working? What isn't working? What's lacking? What is non-negotiable? And what can we really compromise on? What can we come into agreement with? And how can we start fresh? And this could also be before you have a child, right? In your relationship with your partner, you can ask yourselves those questions. Okay, how are we doing? How are we doing? Where are we? Where do we stand in our relationship? And what is working for us? What isn't working for us? What can be changed? And what is not non-negotiable, right? What is non-negotiable? And so you must ask yourself those questions. You must be able to have these open conversations, because when you become a parent, these conversations become even more crucial. Okay. And I know that sometimes children come into our lives when we're not expecting it, right? And perhaps in the relationships, things are not always, going as well as expected. But so then you have to kind of sit down and have these conversations, have open conversations, so that you can create an optimal situation for your pregnancy, for your child, for yourself. So I hope that this has been useful for you. It's just a little bit, like I said, it's just literally a snippet of everything that I want to share. But I hope that this was useful, that perhaps you can put it into practice. Remember, have open conversations. What is working? What isn't working? What can be compromised? And what's non-negotiable, right? How do you want to parent? How were you parented? What mistakes do you not want to make? And what do you need to do in order to heal that which is hidden in your womb? And we haven't talked about that, right? I haven't talked to you about the womb. And so I'm going to have to make another recording on that. And, how do we know, right, that we're storing pain in our womb? So that's going to be my next video. But yeah, have these conversations. Really try to dig deep into yourself. How are you loving yourself? How are you showing up for yourself every day? What's your inner dialogue like? Remember, all of that will be transferred to your child, your children. So you want to make sure that you are aware of your inner dialogue, of the things that you're holding, so that you don't transfer that over to your children. so that you don't mistakenly, unknowingly pass that on. So I hope this helps. I hope it's useful. If you have any questions, you can comment down below. I'm here to support you in any way I can. I don't know if this was too vague. I hope it answered some questions, and if not, just comment and I will reply. Okay? Well, take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye.